The wind never stopped screaming across the mountain. It tore through the snow like something alive, something hunting. On the night of February 1st, 1959, 9 experienced hikers camped on the eastern slope of a mountain in the northern Ural range of the Soviet Union. They were young, strong, and highly trained. Several were engineering students. All of them were skilled in winter survival. They were not amateurs. They knew the dangers of the wilderness. They knew how to handle the cold. And yet, before morning, something happened that would leave all 9 of them dead, under circumstances so strange that, more than 60 years later, no one can agree on what truly happened. Their journey began as an ambitious expedition. The group, led by 23-year-old Igor Dyatlov, set out to reach a remote peak known as Ural. It was a difficult winter route, but well within their abilities. They documented their progress with photos and journals, laughing, smiling, full of confidence. One member of the group turned back early due to illness. That decision would save his life. The remaining 9 continued into the deep wilderness. As they climbed higher, the terrain grew more dangerous. Snowdrifts buried the landscape. Temperatures plunged far below freezing. Winds howled across the exposed slopes. Still, the group pushed forward. On the afternoon of February 1st, they made a fateful decision. Instead of descending into a nearby forest for shelter, they set up camp on the open mountainside. It was an unusual choice, but perhaps they feared losing altitude they had worked hard to gain. They pitched their tent on a slope, partially digging it into the snow for protection. That tent would later become one of the most disturbing crime scenes in modern history. Sometime during the night, something caused the hikers to panic. But what? Investigators would later discover that the tent had been cut open from the inside, not unzipped, slashed. The hikers had fled into the freezing darkness wearing almost nothing. Some were barefoot, some wore only socks. None had properly dressed for the brutal temperatures outside. Why would experienced survivalists abandon their shelter like that? Why would they run into a deadly blizzard with no coats, no boots, no supplies? The first bodies were found weeks later. Search teams discovered footprints in the snow leading away from the tent. They walked, not ran, down the slope toward a forest about a kilometer away. Under a cedar tree at the forest's edge, 2 bodies lay side by side. They had tried to build a small fire. Branches were broken high in the tree, as if one of them had climbed it, perhaps to look for the tent or to see something in the distance. Both were dressed only in underwear. Their hands were burned, likely from trying to stay warm near the fire. They had died from hypothermia. Between the tree and the tent, 3 more bodies were found. These hikers appeared to have been trying to return to the tent. They collapsed one by one in the snow, facing uphill, as if fighting against exhaustion and the cold. But it was the final 4 bodies that deepened the mystery beyond explanation. They were found months later, buried under several meters of snow in a ravine. Unlike the others, these hikers had severe injuries. 1 had a fractured skull. 2 had massive chest trauma, broken ribs, crushed bones, injuries compared by investigators to the force of a car crash. Yet there were no external wounds to match the damage. No signs of a struggle, no bruises, no blood on the surface. It was as if they had been subjected to an overwhelming force, something powerful enough to break bones but somehow invisible. One of the women was missing her tongue. Another was missing parts of her lips and facial tissue. At first glance, it sounded like something monstrous, but wildlife scavenging could not fully explain the pattern of injuries. The area had little animal activity in winter, and the soft tissue damage seemed too precise, as if something else had happened there. Investigators searched for answers, but the case only grew stranger. Some of the hikers' clothing showed traces of radiation. Their camera film contained blurred images, shadows in the dark, shapes against the snow, something that looked almost like a glowing figure in the distance. Local Mansi tribespeople spoke of strange lights in the sky during that time. Other hikers in the region reported hearing distant booming sounds echoing through the mountains. The Soviet authorities quickly closed the investigation. The official conclusion stated that the hikers died due to a compelling natural force. No further explanation was given. The case files were sealed. For decades, theories have filled the silence. Some believe it was an avalanche, but there were no signs of a major slide, and the tent remained partially standing. Others suggest military testing, secret weapons, shock waves, or airborne chemicals. There are whispers of infrasound, low-frequency vibrations caused by wind over the mountain, which may induce panic and irrational fear. Some point to wildlife, others to hypothermia-induced paradoxical undressing, a known phenomenon where freezing victims remove clothing due to a sensation of burning heat. And then there are the darker theories, unknown creatures in the wilderness, extraterrestrial encounters, interdimensional events. Whatever happened on that mountainside, the hikers acted as if they were fleeing something immediate and terrifying. They did not have time to dress. They did not have time to think. They only had time to run. But from what? A sound? A shockwave? A presence? Even today, the mountain carries a grim name among locals: Dead Mountain. The winds still howl across its slopes. Snow still buries the ground where 9 lives ended in fear and confusion. And somewhere in that frozen silence, the truth remains hidden, locked beneath ice, time, and unanswered questions. Because the Dyatlov Pass incident is not just a tragedy. It is a reminder that even in the modern world with science and satellites and maps, there are still places where we do not fully understand what can happen. Places where the night is deeper than we think. Places where something, or someone, may be watching. And sometimes, the mountain does not give back its secrets. This was the Midnight Archives.